Mommispace, a place where you can remember who you are in the midst of it all. This podcast gives moms of all stages a voice to share their experiences and the truth that there is no right way to mom. Welcome back to Mommispace. This is Bree, and today I am here with Katy Rollins. Welcome to the show, Katy.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. We met through Instagram, actually,
Yeah.
and I know we have some mutual friends, which is always a fun thing to see. But I just was kind of taken by you, and you were always so engaged and like commenting on pictures, and I was like, this girl is awesome. And so we just decided to have a conversation. I'm so glad we did. Before we kind of dive in, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, family life, where you're located, and what daily life looks like for you guys?
Well, I guess before I say that, I just wanted to say on this podcast while you were recording that you are doing such a good work for moms.
Oh.
And I so appreciate the platform that you give all moms of all walks of life. So I just need to say that.
Oh my gosh, you're the best. Thank you. Thank
You're welcome.
you.
Yes. Well, I'm Katy, and I live in Southern California, specifically Riverside area, so outside of LA. And I have two boys. And there's Seth, who's my firstborn. He's 2.5, and Elliot, who is almost 11 months old. And so we're in Riverside in our house, and my husband is a accountant for a school district. So he's kind of got a 9-to-5 job, which is wonderful.
Nice, yes.
So it's nice to have a predictable schedule, and he used to work far from home, well, like an hour drive.
Oh, wow.
So now he's closer, and that's just kind of a game changer for our family. But I mean, he gets up, the boys get up, he goes to work, and so starts our day, right? So
Wow.
the naps and poops and feedings and, everything in between.
Love it.
And then he gets home and it's the same stuff. I just have an extra pair of hands.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so will you just tell us the story of your journey into motherhood? What did that look like for you?
Yes. Well, I have always been really drawn to children. So I always knew I wanted to be a mom. Forever. Like, I think even before I knew I wanted to be a mom, I just had very much a motherly instinct. So, once I became a woman, I guess you could say, I had a monthly visitor. I started having a lot of pain. And so I ended up seeing a doctor eventually, and they just said, oh yeah, like you could have this thing called endometriosis. You could not, like, we don't know. It's really hard to diagnose, blah, 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 blah. So they just, prescribed me pain medication and sent me on my way.
Wow.
And I got fed up every few years,
Yeah.
and saw a different doctor, or, happened to be in college when I moved here, and, was able to see different doctors for different reasons. And they all pretty much said the same thing. It could be endometriosis, but it's really difficult to diagnose. Sometimes it's like finding a needle in a haystack. And there's no, like, you for sure don't have endometriosis. Because even if they do like a surgery to go in and see, like, do you have endometriosis? And I guess I should say not everyone knows what that is, but essentially it's where, like, the tissue of your uterus, like, somehow ends up outside. And so it's really painful. And it's actually one of the leading causes in infertility in women. So, I mean, imagine hearing that over and over and over and over again in different stages of my life. And not knowing, right? Like, I could be totally fine, and I could not be totally fine. And so when I finally, like I said, every few years I would just get fed up, and I like really got fed up in college. And so I was like, y'all need to go in and look because I'm so sick of this pain. And they did, and they said, oh, I didn't see anything, but you had some cysts that we took care of. And that's that.
Wow.
So yeah, then nothing really changed, but I got married and was still having a lot of pain. So we opted for another surgery. Um, and when we went in, they went in and they thought I had some scar tissue from the previous surgery that was maybe causing some pain. And then I got to the diagnostic appointment and he said, yep, so you have endometriosis. And it was
Oh
like
my gosh.
such a weird feeling because for years at this point, I had been told maybe, maybe not, and then even had the surgery and they said, yeah, we didn't find anything. And
Wow.
it was like almost a relief,
Wow.
um, because it was like, see, like
Yeah.
I knew something was wrong. Um, but it was also scary because
Totally. Oh my
like
gosh.
I'm now married and obviously like I want to have children
Mm.
and not everyone who has endometriosis is infertile, but if you're infertile, quote unquote, like it's actually one of the leading causes. So it's just weird. It's a weird
Yeah.
place. Like, do I grieve the children I'm never going to have? Like,
Mm.
do I like just say, okay, sure, let's move on, let's go? Like, and
Yeah.
he looked at us and he said, yeah, so you need to start trying now. And
Whoa.
we had been married for not quite a year, maybe like 9 months.
Wow.
And we had this big trip to Orlando planned for our first anniversary. We were going to go to Universal Studios and all these things.
Mm.
And like we both looked at each other like, I can't be pregnant on that trip. Like,
Oh.
we can't pay all this money for me to not go on any rides or, whatever.
Oh.
Um, but on the other hand, like if it's going to take us forever or
Right.
whatever, like let's go.
Yeah.
And so, we both like really wrestled with that. And I think one of the things that really struck me, my husband looked at me and he goes, I know this isn't how this works,
Mm.
but if this was the only time that we could get pregnant, would you rather be pregnant and like go on this trip or like obviously not be pregnant?
Yeah.
And I was like, duh, baby, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
duh. And so that like really, I think, struck me. And I think it kind of struck my husband too, because we were kind of processing that. So we went for it, not knowing
Mm.
what to expect. And just is such a weird, like, I'm kind of scared, I'm kind of nervous, but,
Wow.
you know, we don't know what's going to happen.
Right. Wow.
We got pregnant the first month.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, obviously it was not very hard for us to get pregnant.
Was that a relief for you? Like, were you excited and like
Yes.
what kind of went through your mind there just with having all of that talk, as
Yeah.
you've gone into these doctor's appointments, like what was
Yeah.
that like?
It just was kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it. Obviously, I was just beyond myself. I
Mm.
was so excited. And,
Oh.
like, I think we were both like, wow, okay, we thought like it might happen fast, but like literally the first try.
Wow, that's amazing.
And so we were kind of like, well, okay, let's. And honestly, like we still had so much fun on the trip. And what's really
Mm.
great about like Universal Studios in particular is like they create this world that you can kind of,
Mm.
instead of having just to go on the ride. So
I was gonna
it
ask,
really,
did you guys still go on the
oh
trip?
yeah,
Like,
oh yeah, oh
that's
yeah,
so good.
yeah. So
Oh.
yeah, I was just, and I told people like I would so much rather it be that shock
Mm.
versus the other shock,
Sure, sure.
versus it being 2 years down the road
Yeah, of
and
course.
going, Lord, why, please, like this is
Sure.
all I want. And like it just was really wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the second time we both kind of said like, well, there's no guarantees still.
Hmm.
This like the average time it takes for someone with endometriosis to get pregnant is a year,
Wow.
or 2 years. It actually could be 2 years because I think like and 1 year is average just for a healthy person too sometimes. Is so it's 2 years I think, and like for us to get pregnant right away, there still wasn't any guarantee.
Yeah.
So we kind of had to play the game like, well, it happened really quickly last time. How fast, how soon are we ready? But we wanted the boys, or the boys, our kids, we didn't know it was a second
Yeah.
boy yet, to be closer in age. So we kind of had to play that game a little bit. And
Wow.
2 months later,
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, wow. So, what was it like? This kind of just popped into my mind as you were
yeah.
talking. Like, what was that like for you guys getting the just the, I guess, note from the doctor, the advice from the doctor to start trying quickly? And as far as like what you envisioned your first few years of marriage to be, like, how has it changed your marriage? What have you guys learned from each other? Just go into that a little bit.
Yeah, well, my husband is 7 years older than I am,
Nice.
and I know cradle robber. We always joke that he's gonna have like hot wife when he's 90.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah,
uh,
yeah. So he wanted to kind of like if we were gonna have we always said we would like 3 to 4 kids. So if we were kind of doing the math, if
hmm,
everything worked out perfectly, quote unquote, like as we planned it, he wanted to be done um, by 40.
nice.
So we like, and I was ready. I don't know that there was like a whole lot holding me back.
Sure. Okay.
Um, so we said about a year um, into our marriage, we would pull the goalie, as we say, right? Like, not, we were like
That's
trying.
so great.
Um, but, if it happened, it happened.
Sure.
And so when we got the diagnosis, that was, like I said, it was about like 9 months into our marriage.
Wow.
And so it wasn't too far off. Yeah. So it was funny because I feel like we had conversation after conversation after conversation over 3 months.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like over the difference of 3 months.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a relief
Hmm.
to just let it go, um, because we were going to get pregnant or we weren't.
Yeah.
And it was just, like I said, a relief, I think, for us to um, just like move on instead
Yeah.
of playing the game of like, should we not, should
Right.
we not? And I think for us in our marriage, I don't know that it was really a game changer for us because it was the plan
Sure.
for us. And so I think it just was just like a blessing,
Hmm.
that it wasn't hard, and it wasn't like we had this big trial like that we could
Right.
have had, because there's so many people who are healthy and have no reason to be 2 years into trying to have a baby and
Totally.
still coming up void. And that I felt guilty for that too, actually,
Wow.
because for so long I've had in my head, like, I could have trouble getting pregnant, I could not. And so it was almost like I fought part of that battle,
Hmm.
part of that like infertility battle, um, for years before I was even married.
Wow.
Uh, and so I felt like I could relate to these women, but at the same time,
Interesting.
I couldn't.
Sure.
Um, and like, I didn't really know how to approach that.
That's so interesting. Wow.
And and then on top of that, me getting pregnant just right away,
Yeah.
like, it just was this weird dichotomy of, oh my gosh, this is so great. It was so easy for us. But I also don't take that for granted,
Sure.
um, because it could not have been easy.
Yeah.
And for a lot of women, it isn't easy.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess there's that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't even think about how that would have been kind of yeah, I just think it's interesting how you're talking about kind of processing through those thoughts and those potential realities even before you had the opportunity to either get pregnant or not get pregnant.
Yeah.
And I could totally see how that would be kind of a relatable factor. And I think that's really cool, actually, that you're able to kind of go there. Because even if we can't relate, like, I think even developing that sense of empathy is so valuable.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, like, I just think that's really interesting. Wow.
And I think too, I think like I guess on a little bit of a tangent, like
Yeah, go for it.
empathy in particular is not the like a lot of people don't realize how to deal with grief.
Yeah.
In including a situation like mine where I got the diagnosis and people knew and they said, "Oh, well, everything's going to be fine." And it was like a punch in the gut because it
Mm.
was like, "Well, you don't know that.
Right.
You don't."
Right.
And I don't know that. And I'd like to hope that everything's going to be fine, but we just don't know that.
Right.
So for you to say everything's going to be fine is not helping my grief in
Right.
whatever form that took. And so for the same thing, if I were to approach,
Mm.
a mom or a woman who is dealing with infertility, it's not like I'm like, yeah, girl, I totally know what you're
Right.
going through. I'm
Right.
so sorry because I don't.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I think there's a space for saying, like, I might not know everything that you're going through, but I'm sorry it's hard.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I've dealt with hard things as well. And if you ever just need space to say,
Mm.
yeah, this sucks, like
Mm.
that's so important. And I think like
Yeah.
that's really important, particularly in the shared community of motherhood, you
Yeah.
know, to say
Totally.
like,
Totally.
yeah, sorry, that sucks. Like,
Yeah, I mean, how often is that? At least like that's what I would want to receive, right? If there
yeah,
was somebody that was trying to just connect even and say
yeah,
like, I don't know, I don't have the right words to say, but like ouch, like that is sucky. And I
yeah,
think I think I the best thing you could offer, honestly. But I yeah, I love
yeah.
that perspective. That's really, really good.
And I think it shouldn't be an excuse for silence because that's why people
Mm.
feel lonely,
Yes, that's so
you
good.
know,
So
is because we
true.
don't know what to say, so we don't say anything at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And so even just saying, I don't have the right words,
Yeah.
but like here we are together
Yeah.
is just beautiful,
Oh,
you know?
totally. Totally. And I've just been pondering that like on a smaller level the past couple days, just thinking about the power of being able to connect with specifically with other mothers and women
Hmm.
over social media, like people I would have
Yeah,
never ever run into, just in normal
like
life.
us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I just love that. I love that we went on that tangent. That was so
Yeah,
good. Thank you for
yeah.
that. That's so valuable. Oh, awesome. Okay, so what are some of your passions in life? What brings you life and joy? And does being a mom fuel some of those things rather than taking from them?
Well, I had a couple things in mind, and it's funny we're talking about like empathy
Yeah.
and connecting with people because I would truly say that like people
Hmm.
are a hobby of mine, I guess,
That's awesome.
because that's how you phrased it. But,
Hmm.
like connecting with people and understanding their why and just being able to showing up for people,
Hmm.
like making them a meal or inviting them into my home
Hmm.
or whatever it looks like.
Yeah.
And I would say kids definitely add to that. Well, one, because I stay home with my kiddos.
Hmm.
And so I have the time. Time is like the ultimate resource
Hmm.
to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
and so I can, pop my kids in the car and go take somebody a meal
Yeah.
or, you know, um, open up my door and say, yeah, come over for a play date, or,
Mm.
and just being able to connect on that like human level.
Yeah.
And or if like a mom needs to go to the doctor, like she does not need to lug her 3 kids to the doctor. Like, please come drop them off at my
Oh,
house.
that's
Like,
so sweet. Wow.
and so and I get to model that in front of my children.
Mm.
So
Yes.
um it keeps me accountable too. And inspires me, really empowers me to continue to do that because they're being shown empathy, they're being shown
Mm.
compassion, they're being shown the hospitality that we can provide,
Mm.
um,
That's great.
and
Wow.
all of that in stride, right?
Yeah.
Like just it, that's just the way it goes in our home,
That's so good.
and so yeah, that is really important to me, and I
Mm.
love being able to include my children in that.
Mm. That's so beautiful.
And
Wow. I love that.
um, a couple other things, I guess, hobby wise, is I love crafting, like
Yes.
of all sorts. Um, like I kind of say that I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none
Nice.
because like I just decided one day I could quilt. Like
Nice.
I just
Wow.
decided I could do this. Like it's just sewing a bunch of straight lines.
Yeah.
And you know what? I did. I totally have made like 2
Wow.
quilts already.
No
And,
way. That's
yeah.
amazing.
And like yeah, so every once in a while I decide like, oh yeah, I can paint or I can whatever,
That's
and
amazing.
so kids are it's a little bit stressful, children.
Sure.
Like I have totally, when I was quilting my quilts, I like totally had a crying baby strapped to my back at one point. And
Oh,
I'm like, you know what, I
nice.
got to get this done. The baby shower is this weekend.
Oh, wow.
Uh, yeah, so that's a little challenging, but
Sure.
that's like my thing and it's my outlet.
Oh.
So, yeah, and then traveling is
Mm.
just huge for my husband and I.
That's awesome.
Like we took our 11-month-old kid to London
Yeah.
and Wales and Ireland. Like,
Wow.
who does that?
Yeah, not many.
Like, even I think myself, like, what were we
Yeah.
doing? And honestly, I would not wish that flight
Oh man, I
over
was gonna
there,
say, how
like
was that?
on
Wow.
my worst enemy. It was brutal.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
so rough. But like I would do it again.
Right, right. I was gonna say,
You
like,
know,
how was that? Like hindsight, like, would you have done
I
it?
would like if you handed me money to go on a trip, like I would not even bat an eye to bring my 2 children with me. You know what I
Wow,
mean?
that's
Like
so cool.
it just it's so wonderful to have those memories and have those experiences. And I've had a couple conversations. People say, "Oh, they won't remember." I said, "But I
Mm.
will."
Oh, yes,
And
totally.
like watching my kid's face light up
Mm.
when he's on the airplane, or watching him just beam when we're like we were on the tube, the like underground train system in London, and he
Mm.
just was like waving at every single person,
Oh
and
my gosh.
have these pictures of him with the like London guards,
Oh,
and so it just like I have that,
yeah.
and he will eventually too when he gets to look back at pictures and we
Yes.
get to tell him all these things. So we've been all over. Like I went to Seattle with the boys by myself. My dad lives up there.
Wow.
Um, Portland. We went to New Jersey to visit my husband's sister. So, we've done it.
Dang. Wow, that's
and
amazing.
and it's important to us. So, like even before kids and after kids, it looks different.
Sure.
Um, but I don't know that it would like help or hinder. It just looks different,
Yeah,
and um, but it's still important in our home. So,
I love that.
yeah, that's kind of a big one for us.
I think that's so great as far as cuz I've totally said that phrase of like, oh, they're not going to remember. But it is so true. Like you get so much joy off seeing their faces light up for different
Yeah.
things, and yeah, that's totally worth it, I think. Wow.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us how you stay inspired in the day-to-day managing your home and your time. Like what does that kind of look like for you?
You know, it's funny because I I like going back to, I guess, like the jack of all trades and a master of none. Like, I often find myself needing different things at different times. Like sometimes I look at my house and I'm like, everything needs to be clean right now. Like at this moment, like we are cleaning.
Yeah.
And, and it just, that's like my self-care, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That I turn around and my counters are clean and I'm like, that feels good.
Yes. Yes.
And then the other, it could be the very next day where my kids just have thrown everything around our living room. Like today, I'm sitting here on my couch looking at my living room and it is a disaster. Um, but like I look around and I see the memories. I see my son asking me to
Mm.
come sit down and read him a book. I see, the walker that my 11-month-old is learning to like walk and he smiles the whole time,
Mm.
right? And so I think like allowing the space for those different needs is
Mm.
how I take care of myself in our home.
That's awesome.
Um, and so there's times where, like, this is so embarrassing to say out loud, but like,
We'll probably all be able to relate to you in some
yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. So I have totally been pulling out clothes from like a clean load of laundry from our dryer to
Oh,
dress my
yeah.
children for
Oh.
like a solid 2 weeks. Like,
I totally can
like
relate to that.
it's so
100%.
bad. But like allowing space for that
Yes.
is like it just is what it is. So like, okay, yes, I need to like fold my laundry, but the kitchen is clean and that's what I felt like I needed in that
Mm.
time. Or like I was telling you a little bit, we had friends here from Wales and so
Yes.
that was important in that time. It was important to be out and about
Mm.
and be with them in that time. So
Yeah.
the laundry got neglected, and that's okay. So
Yes.
maybe when I get off this podcast, I'll go fold
Yeah.
the laundry.
Oh man, that's so good.
Yeah.
I love that taking space, knowing what is okay in the moment. That takes a lot of I think knowing yourself, a lot of grace. And so I really appreciate even just your example and the ways that you've been practicing that. So thank you for sharing that. That's so good.
Yeah. I'm not always good at it.
Well, we're
Um,
all on a journey, aren't we? But it's
right.
nice to hear from people who are
Yeah.
being active and trying.
Yes. And trying.
Gives
Yeah.
me hope. Gives me hope. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So you kind of already mentioned a little bit like that kind of pouring into your self-care, but are there things that you do to take care of your heart, like specific things just for you that you're really enjoying in this time of your life?
Well, I started a recently, I didn't start, but a group of women from my church started a Bible study.
Nice.
And well, we've been doing a Bible study for a while, but like a more in-depth study. And I think just that's been something I've really been craving
Mm.
is to dig into the Word of God and that's been really helpful for me because it makes me feel like accomplished and like I did
Mm.
something. And I think with motherhood in particular, and taking care of your home, it's um, I went and took care of one thing, and like the thing in the other room is now a disaster.
Yeah.
Or I folded the laundry and now there's a pile of kids' clothes that I also need to do.
Mm.
Or I spent an hour doing the dishes and I turn around and like we didn't even eat and there are dishes in the sink. Like,
Oh man.
and it's frustrating
Sure.
because there's nothing, there's close to nothing where you can say, "Yep, I'm done.
Yeah, totally.
I did it. I finished. It's finished."
Right.
And so for this like Bible study, it's something that's like intellectually engaging, community engaging,
Mm.
and I can look at it and say, "Yep, that's done for the week."
That's
And,
awesome.
that's helpful. So yeah, that's having things that I can
Mm.
finish
Yeah,
and I can
yeah.
say, that's done.
That's
And
so
you know what?
good.
I don't have to do it again in 2 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's helpful. And also just like mindless TV, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
just my
Praise the Lord
brain
for some mindless
is
TV, let me just say.
an off button. Like things I love Dancing with the Stars. I love The
Nice.
Bachelor. Like just
Yes.
give me all the trash. Like just it's so
Oh,
nice just to press the off button
yeah, totally.
and start new the next day.
Yes. I love that idea of like having something to start and finish. I totally can relate to needing that kind of thing. And there is a sense of accomplishment of like, sweet, the dishes are done. But you're right. Like, there's not really an end time for those
No.
kinds of things. So I think that is actually maybe for those out there who are still trying to figure out what your self-care like practice is supposed to, be or evolving or whatever,
Yeah.
knowing like maybe that's something that will help is having something that you can start and finish and
Hmm.
feel a sense of accomplishment from or whatever. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. I love that.
Yeah. And I think
Awesome.
that's even outside of like a to-do list too. A lot of people say like,
Totally.
oh, the to-do list, like I get to check things off,
Right.
but like the dishes are still going to need to be
Yes.
done
Yes.
again, you know?
Yep.
And so like outside of that to-do list, having something like,
Mm.
yes, I finished this. And I think maybe that's why I like crafts so much too,
Totally.
because I did it. Look at this really
Yes.
cool quilt I made,
Yeah.
like that I just decided last week I could make. Like, you
Yes.
know,
That's so good.
and it's done and I get to give it to someone and they're really gonna like
Mm.
it or whatever.
Yeah.
And but it's done and there's a physical completeness
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah. That's so true. That totally makes sense. That's great. Okay, so you mentioned something about guilt earlier. Have you experienced mom guilt, what we call mom guilt? And if so, what are some things that you do to overcome it?
Well, I pretty much never have mom guilt because
Ooh.
I'm confident in every decision that I've ever made as a mom. I just pat myself on the back and I think, wow,
Yes.
Katie, you were so good at this.
Oh, I can detect
Okay,
the
yeah, no, that's
sarcasm.
not
Yeah.
the case. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. No, definitely. And it was funny because I was really pondering this, and I was really pondering this like 10 minutes before we got on the phone together. Because, you know, we've been in contact for a bit, and I've really kind
Yeah.
of been mulling over these questions.
Mm.
And I was thinking, you know, I think there's a difference between mom guilt and mom anxiety.
Mm.
Um, and when I was originally thinking about this question, I really deal with a lot of, am I making the right decision?
Mm.
Am I doing the right thing? Should I wake him up from his nap or
Mhm.
should I let him sleep?
Mhm.
Should I, you know, we're potty training right now. Should
Mm.
I let him wear a diaper in public or should I say, let's just do the thing and put him in underwear?
Mhm.
So it's like this constant, am I making the right decision?
Mm.
Will this benefit our family by making the quote unquote right decision?
Yeah.
And it's exhausting,
Yeah.
especially in the newborn stage when you don't even know your kid,
Mm.
you know? Like you're still trying to figure it out. Why are they crying? Are they hungry? Are they not hungry? Are they cold? Are they, you know, the list goes on and on and
Yeah.
on. And they're crying and
Right.
you're not sleeping and you're trying not to argue with your husband because they know they're like doing their best and so are
Oh.
you. Um,
Yes.
and it's one of those things where you constantly have to battle in your head and you have to decide what what is it worth?
Mm.
What are the stakes here? What are, you know, all of those things? And I was kind of really thinking about that and that I think that really kind of sets into the category of like anxiety. Like
Mm.
what what's going to happen if I do this? What's going to happen if I do that? What if,
Right.
you know, am I making the right decision? If it's the wrong decision, is my husband going to be mad at me
Yeah.
because I'm the one who made the call? Like,
Mm.
and, but I think guilt, on the other hand, is like, oh, you know, I should be spending more time with my kids,
Mm.
or the kitchen should be clean, my laundry should be done.
Mm.
Um, and I think separating those two, I think, is probably helpful because um, guilt, I think, can be answered by truth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that there's times when I'm cleaning or doing something to maintain my household, and Seth's like begging me to come sit down and read with him, or whatever. Mama, look, after like the 50th time in 2 minutes. And I want to be that mom that answers the call. I want to say, yes, bud, what? Look, oh, how cool, but like, no, Baba, Mama has to stay in the kitchen. I got to clean these dishes or, whatever. And that guilt is really tough.
Yeah.
Because where, where's that line? Where's the balance?
Yeah.
And something that I've combated that with is, like I said, like truths.
Yeah.
That although I might not be responding to my son in the way that he wants in this moment, he's still watching me maintain my household. So he's learning that we don't always get to do what we want. Sometimes we have to do what needs to happen. Or vice versa. That sometimes in that moment, it's more important for me to lay on the couch and eat goldfish with him,
Totally.
And it's okay if the kitchen is a mess. And bringing him alongside in that and saying, yeah, come help me with the dishes, even though I'm going to have to clean up a gallon of water off the floor. Like it's harder, I think, to bring them alongside the mundane, but I think it helps answers that guilt with the truths of the day to day, and what that looks like for your family, right? Like I would say I'm generally on the like more cluttery side than other people, and like I've shared publicly, like on my Facebook and Instagram and whatnot, that like let them make the mess, help them, let them help you bake and bring them alongside you in that. And I have a couple people have answered me back like, that's not my deal. And that's okay too, because that's their day to day, and that's what, like keeping a clean house is important to them. So there's space for that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think too, those truths to get outside of you, and I mean that in community. So like I have a couple of different outlets for that, and to have people come back to me and say like, oh, I'm so sorry, that like you're dealing with this tantrum, but it's not like because of something you did or whatever. And like there's a couple of different people I reach out to that like, they always have your back.
Yeah.
And that's the truth they can answer back to you, that they say, like, oh, I'm feeling so frustrated. Like I yelled at my kid 10 times today or whatever, like, and I'm feeling guilty for that. And like, they're like, I get it, girl, like you're still doing a great job. You're doing, and so, cause it's a lot easier for me to give a compliment to you than for me to accept a compliment.
Yeah.
And so we can all like do that for each other. Then it becomes truth.
Yeah.
Because it allows for you to support that person and that person to support you,
Totally. That's
and
great.
I look back on my life, and there's been times where my mom has said to me, oh, Katy, I yelled too much, or what have you, and she said, you'll be a better mom than I was. But the thing is, like, I do not remember.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember getting in trouble, like, like that's not, when I think of my mom, I don't think, oh yeah, she yelled a lot.
Yeah.
I think yeah, she took us camping and she baked for
Mm.
3 days at Thanksgiving and she invited every single one of my friends over. And
Mm.
like, those are the things I think of my mom. And
Wow.
so in those times where I feel like guilty or I have anxiety, telling myself like this is not what my kid's going to remember of me
Yes.
is important.
That's huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Wow. That's such a great thing to remember, especially in the moment. And I think like it's not going to be that way for everybody, right? Like it's not going to be like everyone's not going to have super amazing memories of their moms. But to
Yeah.
realize that that is still true, like if you're doing your
Hmm.
best, like the good stuff is going to stick and be more
Yeah.
prominent than anything. And I think that's a
Yeah.
really beautiful thing. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. Well, speaking of uh, what we'll remember. What is the legacy that you want to leave for your children?
This one I really thought about too. I was really mulling this one over because I think instantly when I think what I want to pass on to my children, I think of things like kindness and empathy
Mm-hmm.
and being able to relate to others.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think when it really boils down to it, um, I want a legacy of love.
Mm.
And love is more than just like, oh, I love you so much, just this like really great emotion that we have, but it's also action oriented.
Mm.
That um, by our love, other people will know that we are disciples of God,
Mm.
that we can love patiently, we can love gently, that love is patient, love is kind, and all of those things um, that encompass things like empathy and
Mm-hmm.
kindness. And even if you disagree with somebody, like even to your core, you can
Yeah.
still show them love.
Yes. That's so
That
good.
you can, you know, uh, if they have a need, you can meet that need.
Mm.
If their house burned down, you can bring them clothes to wear.
Yeah.
Or, it's just something that is a choice and it's action oriented.
Mm.
Um, and that we find new ways to love every day.
Yeah.
That I find new ways to love my husband. I find new ways to love my children. I find new ways to love my neighbor, the stranger, the homeless person on the corner. Um, and and that is requires thought.
Yeah.
And um, you can't just go through life just thinking, oh yeah, I love that person, right? Like that's why
Right.
so
Right.
much like divorce happens. Like
Yeah.
eh, how many people who've been married for 50 years can say that there was a rough bit in their marriage,
Yeah.
but they chose
Yeah.
to love that person and they chose that person.
Yeah.
So, leading that for my kids and for my kids to put that out into the world that they will
Mm.
live in,
Yeah.
um, is, I think, a testament to hopefully what my husband and I can give the world
Mm. That's
and
great.
our legacy.
Love it. That's so good. Oh, Katie, I'm so glad that we decided to do this. This has been so lovely. Okay, I have a couple fun questions I'd like to end with.
Yes.
So if the first one would be, do you have a favorite product for yourself and or your kiddos that you're loving right now?
Yes. So, I feel like I've been answering all the questions and like, yes, there's two or whatever, but
I love it. That's great.
um, so, something that really, really has helped me, since pretty much as soon as my firstborn was here, I really struggled with nursing and as a lot of moms do.
Yeah.
And one of the tips my doctor gave me was to find a water bottle and decide how much water you were going to drink a day and put that many rubber bands on that water bottle. And when you finished that one water bottle, then you moved a rubber band up. And so, like I have like a 25-ounce water bottle, and I decide I want to drink 100 ounces today, or like just in general, I want to drink 100 ounces every day. So I have 4 rubber bands, and every time I finish one, I put one up. And so it's just like a visual of saying,
That's
like I'm
great.
staying hydrated. And then, after I'm done with my 4, then it's just anything extra on that. But, it gets like to 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I've only drank one water bottle. Get on it. So, that one is like really helpful for me.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then a CD which I was curious if you had ever heard of it, because I know you like music.
Yes.
And it's JJ Heller's I Dream of You CD.
That sounds familiar, but I don't know if I've actually listened to it.
You need to like get off this podcast and go listen to it. Okay. So, I was really struggling with sleep. And I had been a fan of hers for a bit, but someone had suggested me listen to that. And one of the songs has a lyric that says, baby, the sun will rise however long the night. And it's just so applicable to every part of motherhood and life that, if you're going through something hard, like the sun will rise, even if you don't think it will, because it will. And that's not dependent on you. It's not dependent on your choices. It's just dependent that you look up and see and open the curtains that the sun is here. And I'm getting all deep over a CD.
I love it. I love it. That means it's impacted you, and that's so powerful. Like that art can do that. So, like, I think that's great. I actually just looked it up.
Lullaby.
I just looked it up and I downloaded it, so I will listen to it.
Good. Yeah, so it's a lullaby album she made, and it just has so many beautiful words of joy, of sorrow, I guess, or just like hope in that like hard time in your life or whatever. And it like spoke to my heart, and it also was like calming to like I played in the car when my kid's like having a fit, and sometimes it calms him down. And like he even says like JJ, he'll ask for JJ.
Wow.
So yeah, and it like even words to pray over my kids when I don't really have the words. So everybody needs it.
That's so good. Okay, cool. I'll add a link.
Full stop.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, and then do you guys have a favorite holiday tradition that you'd like to share?
Well, with Christmas coming up, my husband and I, when we got married, both of our parents live close, which is wonderful. Yes. But it also is challenging in the holidays.
Sure.
Because everybody wants time, and you want to give everybody time, and you want to do everything with everybody, but it's hard to do that. So we decided that Christmas morning was our time. And, that gave Christmas Eve, Christmas afternoon, Christmas evening, all of those things that gave it time. But Christmas morning was, we like woke up in our own home and we got to do presents with just us and have our time. And that translated into now with us having kids that, we got some Christmas plates, and I joke that I married Kris Kringle because my husband is like such a bah humbug sometimes, but like he is just the nicest person you'll ever meet, and he loves Christmas like so much. So we have Christmas plates, and he makes pancakes for the family in the morning, and it's just our time. It's like sacred. The time to take a second, be with each other, and have that time together as a family. And then it's like a launching pad for us with the rest of our family, which is wonderful to have our families close and be able to do that with them.
That's so great. Love it. All right. And then I know you've already given some great advice, but is there one piece of advice you'd give to a new mom?
There's not as much at stake as you think there is. And I learned that particularly with my second child, that you think if they don't nap today, or if they, like if they only drink 4 ounces of milk instead of 6, or, like there's all these decisions that you think will impact you. And you know what? They will. There's like, it will, because if my kid skips a nap, guess what tonight's going to look like? Like you do have to deal with that kind of fallout. But a year from now, maybe even a month from now or a week from now, it won't matter.
Yeah.
And so you just got to kind of roll with it. Yeah. And I'm a very like structured person when it comes to my children. But it just, it won't matter. Yeah. And you'll be okay. And your kid will sleep eventually. And, like all of those things that it will happen. It'll be okay. And there's just not as much at stake in that one decision that you think there is.
That's great. That's super good advice. Oh, man. Oh, Katy, thank you so much for sharing your story and all of your beautiful thoughts with us. I'm so grateful and so glad we got to connect via Instagram. Yep.
I know.
Yeah.
Modern friendship. Right
here. No kidding. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's interview. Please share this with a friend if it impacted you in any way, and leave a review on iTunes so other mamas can hear the truth, that they are enough and they are doing their very best. Be sure to catch up on what's happening in the Mommispace community every day on Instagram at Mommispace, and you can email me at mommispace@gmail.com for questions or interview recommendations. All my love to you, Mama. You're amazing. See you next week. Just to say that I'm the one you love. It's so like you to do the best for one, the best for love. It's so like you to do the best for one.